he'll be in £2.5 million a week.
Yeah.
£260 million over 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite incredible. And now we're hearing out of Saudi Arabia, Martin, some players are being told they can have 50% of their wages paid up front if they agree to move to Saudi Arabia. That's what they're doing. We can outspend anyone, and we'll prove it. And we'll build a bigger and better league than the English Premier League. That's what the Saudis are saying this morning.
And that's fine. And they have a right to build a league. Everyone has a right to be able to create something and be given an opportunity to invest in it. Where they don't have a right is to be allowed to do that in perpetuity and then compete in the prevalent tournaments that other teams are competing in. Because if they're going to break the ecosystem, if they're going to change the landscape, if they're going to turn around and say, the economics of football don't apply to us, we don't care. We will pay whatever it takes to get whoever we want, irrespective of every consequence, because ours is not an economic model, ours is not a commercial model, ours is a model to achieve an outcome for a variety of different reasons.
Yeah.
The pushback against that has to be, well, then you can't play in the FIFA World Club Championships. You can't do this and you can't do that, because we can't be in a situation where European leagues are trying to move towards a sustainable model. That means that football clubs aren't dependent upon individuals, they're dependent upon their own revenue streams and manageable and achievable and aren't suspect to the conditions of individuals' whims. And you lot can come along in perpetuity and just break it. I believe that they should be given a decent amount of time to build a structure, to have a competitive league and all that goes with it. Right? But then beyond that period of time, for capitalism purposes and meritocracy, investment and all that sort of stuff, and then all of a sudden, that's enough now. And they'll say,
that's enough now.
They'll say no.
They're not going to listen.
And they're fine. But then they're not going to buy UEFA. They're not going to buy the Premier League. They're not going to buy La Liga.
What will they do? They're going to invest in it if they can.
Right.
Of course they will.
And then they'll play amongst themselves. Right. So the fact of the matter is, Al Hilal and whoever else it is, right, is not as intriguing as Barcelona. Is not as interesting as Liverpool, as Man United. So somewhere along the line, if they want their football league to be very, very significant, because first and foremost, they haven't got a broadcast deal. They just got one from DAZN for about 50 grand, didn't they? Rather than £1 million that they turned around and said it was.
Yeah, but Simon, it's a Glasshouse's argument, because Chelsea's spending almost £1 billion. This lot are doing it, but even more spectacularly. I mean, this is what McElhenney, the Saudi Pro League's director of football, has just said over the weekend there. In a couple of years, this will become a league for exceptional players only. Only the best.
Good.
That's the only ones we're going to have. We're going to have the best. That's it, bar none. In other words, the rest of you, do one.
And that's
we
fine.
are in 24 months.
And we will see.
They say we're going to be the best league.
And we will see. And of course, part and parcel of that is they will need a broadcast deal to be able to broadcast. They don't need any support. The current infrastructure of football worldwide is underpinned by broadcasters. These guys don't need that, right? Because they've got more money than God, right? But the reality of it is, if they want to make their football competitive and meaningful, they're going to need to interact with other parts of the football pyramid, right? And this is where the lever comes, because the other parts of the football pyramid said, well, thank you very much. You've been allowed to build your league because that's your gift and you can do what you want with it. But you're not come rocking into our league playing competitive games against our sides when you've destroyed the ecosystem. You're paying players £800,000 a week as a staple diet because there's no other attraction to come and play in your league besides the economics right now. So there will be a reckoning. But I do believe that they have a right, insofar as this is a football project, and I question the validity of that. I think there's a lot of other things at play here, but they have a right to build up their league. But the challenge is that what will that do to the Premier League? What will it do to La Liga? What will it do to Serie A? Because players will sit there and turn around and say, I'm underpaid. Yeah. I'm underpaid.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's going to be the complaint from this point onwards. The top player, Emanalo Martin, has been quite robust about it. He says it will become a league, Saudi league, for those who are at the top of their game. We have the resources. We are going to use them. In other words, stuff the rest of you. Watch us go now. Only the best will come here, and you lot can get on with the other leagues that you are running. This lot are here to stay, and they're doing it quickly, super quickly. We're not talking about a 10-year program here. We're talking about in 24 months, they aim to be much bigger than the English Premier League, and we're going to show you how to run football.
Well, they may well have the very, very best players, because if you are going to pay, you've just mentioned Neymar, £600,000 a week or something like this here, then players are going...
$2.5 million a week.
£2.5 million a week.
£2.5 million a week. then players are going to move. They are going to go there. But Simon has a point, absolutely. What is that going to do to the European League? They're not going to be allowed into that. Will they just play this little league of their own, and whoever wins it, that's fine? Will there be no such thing as relegation? Because I can't imagine trying to establish this here. Is there going to be a second division out there? But here's where I think, you know when we were talking about, if I can draw some sort of comparison to the Live Golf, where they've won. I think they've won.
Yeah.
They've won. The reason I think that they've won is that because the big players that have gone to Live Golf are now allowed to play in the majors. And if I'm a top class golfer, I want to have the best of both worlds.
Richard Masters last week, Simon, said there's no threat to the Premier League. That is maybe
but
now.
Common sense prevailed with that, because there's no God-given right for the format of golf not to evolve. And what happened is that the PGA and all the different tours were behaving in a certain way, right? And Liv came along and challenged them, and they got together and they've merged. They've done a deal where economic benefit exists. Now, where's the economic benefit in this? You cannot, we've already been proven that the British government will now not allow nation states to buy sporting entities in this country. They've already ruled it out, and the Premier League has ruled it out. So you can't have the Premier League being bought. And even the Saudis are going to balk at the cost of buying the Premier League, because if they tried to buy the Premier League as an entity, which I'm not sure they can, because ultimately it's the sum of all its parts, but if they were, they'd be paying 50, 60, 70 billion for it, right? And I don't even think they're going to go to that level to buy a Premier League. So where are they going to go? Of course, this fella, he's not going to turn around and say, it's going to be difficult. He's going to be bold.
But you don't think they'll go through the hinge side of the door to try and get the hands in the Champions League and involvement in the Champions League?
So you're suggesting
the Saudi champions will play in the Champions League.
How are they going to achieve that? So
longer term, that's going to be the aim.
You're going to sit there and you're going to suggest that the turkeys are going to vote for Christmas. They're going to sit there and say, you guys that don't have any economic restraints upon you, we that do, we that are governed by a sensible perspective of capitalism meets sustainability. You guys don't have that. You're going to just break the whole system, do precisely what you want. You're going to
what's sustainable about Chelsea? 800 million
what's sustainable?
in a year.
Well, I've just explained to you. Chelsea are buying assets.
How do you turn heads?
Chelsea are buying
money.
Assets. Chelsea are not paying £2.5 million a week for a footballer. Right? Chelsea are paying outlandish amounts of money, £300,000 a week for the boy Fernandes, and so on and so forth. But they're buying assets. They're buying a player for £100 million. He bought it for £100 million. He's still worth £100 million. When you start paying £2.5 million a week wages, that's straight out of the door. That cash has gone straight out of the door. And then you're breaking the ecosystem, because what happens is everybody else starts to do that. Everybody else starts to be in this race to the bottom. Now, will they be serious players? Do you have to contend with them? Is this going to continue in perpetuity? No, it's not. Right now, what they're doing is they're laying a stake down. They're going to build their league, and they're going to try and attract as many people as they possibly can of a certain echelon. They're going to try and make their teams. But you are not, by the sheer value of money, going to turn Al Hilal into Barcelona or to Liverpool or to Manchester United. You're going to turn them into an oasis of cash, right? And that will have its own value. So you've got to go a long, long, long way to supersede the legacy of these football clubs, the heritage of these established leagues, and the achievements of all these different competitions with just money. You're going to have to go a long, long way to do that, right? So there's not going to be 2 years.
But the noises that are coming out are both robust and frightening, Martin. Emanalo's saying today, I don't think it's going to take the same amount of time that it took the Premier League to get there.
Get where?
We'll establish ourselves quicker than that to become the best league in the world. That's what they want to do.
But what makes them okay?
That's what they want. But we always sit here and go on about the Premier League's the best league in the world. Maybe it is. It probably is. But at the moment, this lot are knocking on its door.
Technically, the Premier League isn't the best league in the world. What it is the best broadcast league in the world. It's a league that compels people around the globe to want to watch it. It's got hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
Let's have a look and see how quickly that 12-team league, right, played in the desert, is going to attract eyes around the world. You'll get the initial feel-good factor of seeing which particular Harlem Globetrotter rocks up into Saudi Arabia for a period of time. You are going to be brought to the table to do a deal that makes sense for football, and they will spend a lot of money in short order. And eventually, if they want to play with the established leagues, they're going to find a correlation between what happens in Europe and what happens in Saudi, which is you can't go round having no sort of financial governance if you want to play in world football. You can play on your own if you want. If you believe that you can achieve a league in your own, on your own, with all your money, and the mercenaries that go there simply for the money, then you'll achieve a certain level. But in order for you to get that Venn diagram effect where you get the credence and credibility and recognisability and establish your league, you're going to have to play with the other players. And they're not going to sit there and go, you carry on jacking up the price. You carry on jacking up the wages because it works for us. It won't happen. It'll level out.
Okay. Neymar, the latest recruit this lunchtime.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.